Hello, hello. I'm Rowan Ravenwolf, and I am actually the founder of Triple Goddess Apothecary and Reiki. But tonight, I am here with Witchy Book Club. So the book we're doing is Anatomy of the Spirit by Carolyn Myss. So if you are new to Witchy Book Club, we're doing a chapter a week, and the book will change. Yay! Welcome, Candace. Welcome. And I thought I saw somebody else join. Oh, no, it looks like just you so far. So if you are new to Witchy Book Club, we do a chapter a week until the book is done. And you can actually join my Patreon, because in Patreon, wink, wink, you get like a deeper dive is what we'll call it before you can jump on here for our discussion. So, sorry, my lips are so dry getting out of winter and getting into spring. But yes, so we're going to dive in. So this book is by Carolyn Myss, and it is the 7 Stages of Power and Healing. And so we're going to go through this chapter that we worked on this week, that we read this week. And we're just going to jump in. We're just going to jump in and have some fun with it. So this is a pretty profound book, and for those that are not familiar, this book, I read it a long time ago, read it a second time in 2019, and so this is my third time, but each time I've read it, I've gotten something new out of it. So Carolyn Myss is Christian, but she is taking the Christian sacraments, the 7 sacraments, with the Hindu 7 chakras, and then the Jewish Kabbalah Tree of Life. And the Kabbalah Tree of Life has 10 seraphis. However, they can be combined down to 7 because in multiple cases 2 go together. So this book is very profound. If you are on a healing path or a healing journey, this book will probably help you. We have a lot of really great tools out there, and some things are probably going to resonate and help, and some things may not. So it's always good to kind of explore and see what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And, maybe this will help. Hi, Daniel Lynn. Thanks for joining tonight. And I want to thank everybody so far. Like, I've got a couple hearts going and a couple gifts. So thank you so much for the gifts. And Tanya, it looks like you just sent the last one. Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate it. So let's jump in. So we're really cruising through the book. So we are on chapter 5. If you have the original edition, if you have the newer edition, it's part 2, chapter 3, and it's the 3rd chakra, personal power. Welcome, Moa Moore. I'm glad you're here too. So, all right. So the 3rd chakra is the energy of personal power. And this is the last of our bottom 3 chakras. So I kind of feel like our bottom 3 chakras really keep us grounded and help get us going, help us with the self-esteem. And then that heart chakra is our next chakra. And that's like where love is going to burst, right? And that's our heart's our core, but we're not going to really jump into the heart chakra because we are on the 3rd chakra. So this is our solar plexus chakra. So our solar plexus is like belly button up to our heart. So our heart's up here. So it's like just below the heart and between the belly button and the heart. The energy connection in our physical body, and I'm just going to kind of summarize it a little bit from the book. So it's our stomach area, our pancreas, our middle spine, if we go to our back, our liver, our gallbladder, the top of our intestines. Our energy connection, she's referring to our personality and our ego. And this is like our self-responsibility, our self-esteem. Our symbolic perceptual connection is, sorry, I usually highlight it, and I forgot to have my pencil with me when I was reading, so I didn't highlight it. Okay, so this is our gravitational center. And actually, if you've ever done dance or yoga, like I did ballet and modern, and yoga, It literally is our gravitational center. This is where you need to keep everything like sucked in when you're dancing and doing yoga, because that's where your balance is. Our seraphats and our sacraments. So it's the seraphat of Nazat, which is endurance, and Hod, which is integrity or majesty. And then the sacrament is confirmation. I still like, for me personally, because she puts the 7 Christian sacraments, the sacraments, they're just not resonating that much with me. So if it resonates with somebody, if you could maybe like just put in the chat how it resonates, because I would really like that, like that opinion. And I think part of it, like, I grew up in a Christian religion, but we really didn't talk about the 7 sacraments very much. A lot of different Christian religions center on different things. So I would be really curious if anybody does want to share that. So with this, primary fears are fears of rejection, criticism, looking foolish. This is like really, like, when I think about it, it reminded me when I was reading this chapter of like the end of elementary school and junior high, when we're really self-conscious and we're trying really hard to fit in. That's what it kind of reminded me of. But this is like failing to meet even your own personal responsibilities. The primary strength, sorry. Whew. I've been feeling like I was going to sneeze. It's going to rain here. So my allergies are like going wild. But our primary strengths are self-esteem, self-respect, and self-discipline. Our sacred truth. So this is the concept that she has come up with, and it's honor one's self. So this is really learning to honor yourself. That's really our spiritual goal here. So she talks about us getting our intuitive voice, and this really comes from our solar plexus, is what she's describing in here, and gaining self-understanding. She talks about, like, she was talking about how one of her clients was a man who said he never expected to be loved in his marriage, and he just married for companionship alone, believing that love was something that happened to other people, but never to people like him. And she was talking about how, like, that thought process isn't healthy. And it's not. So when we think stuff like that, it will happen. What we think about, we bring about. And that's a phrase my mother said. Excuse me, now I'm yawning. My mother said that all the time. And I was just like, oh, mother, But it is really true. I have friends who will be like, well, I'm going to be sick this weekend, even though it might be like a Monday or a Tuesday. And it's like, how do you know you're going to be sick this weekend? I've done it myself where I'm like, I might not feel good this weekend. And guess what? I don't feel good that weekend and guess what? I don't feel good that weekend when I say that. So I'm learning to know I feel good. I feel good. I feel good. It's embracing making ourselves shift our train of thought and shift our thinking process. So, she had a couple things in here, because our solar plexus is, and I want to actually read this. The third chakra in particular resonates to the boundaries of the physical body. And here are some questions. So some questions to think about. And please feel free, if you've read the book and you want to come up, it is an open panel for those who've read the book. If you don't feel comfortable coming up, but you have you'd like to add something, please feel free to add it in the comments. So here's the questions she said with this. Are we physically strong or weak? So think about that. Are you physically strong or weak? Are you able or handicapped? If we think we can't do something, we're going to bring that about. So if we think, oh gosh, here's a really good example. There was a dad on my son's baseball team, and he was extremely overweight. And he said, I really can't do anything because I'm overweight. And he literally bent over to pick up a baseball and threw his back out. But he was constantly saying, I'm overweight, I can't do anything. I'm overweight, I can't do anything. And I remember saying to him, if you think like that, that's what you're going to bring about. Think, I'm healthy, eat healthy. Think, I'm going to go for a walk today. And he was like, I can't, I'm too overweight. So it's that thought process. We need to shift it. And that's really what, a lot of this book is talking about shifting our thought process. And it is easier said than done, because when I have been at my worst for certain situations, it's really hard to shift that. Sorry, gosh. It's really hard to shift that thought process of, I'm healthy, I can do this. It takes, for each of us, it takes something different to motivate us. But it's something that we need to think about. Are we making ourselves disabled? Are we saying we can't do it when we really could? I can tell you, I worked in a rehab unit in a hospital, and we had people who were paraplegic and quadriplegic and people who had amputees. And I have to tell you, the majority of them had such great spirits. They're like, this is just a new way of living. And it's like, there were people who can walk and had no disability that were more disabled than somebody who lost their leg. So it is something that we do need to think about. Okay, here's a great comment. It's so true, but when it gets hard, when you're trying but still see the negative, I think it's a lot of subconscious ingrained beliefs or thought. Yes, you know what? Unfortunately, sometimes it's ingrained in our society that we grow up in, and that society could be your family. It can be the culture of the area that you live, or it could be like your school culture where you're growing up, like in school, because each school has a different type of culture. And then you're also religious culture. So for example, there's a lot of religions that are very patriarchal, that are like, women should be seen and not heard unless spoken to. Really? No, we should be heard. We need to be heard. Our voices need to be heard. We need to have a balance between masculine and feminine energy. Sorry, my incense is coming right in my face, so I'm hoping it's not going to make me cough. So we can get that. So that's something to think about. And actually, it's really cool. I talk a lot about generations and about how different generations view things. And she does talk about that in this chapter. So I'm going to touch on that as we go through. But I thought that was really, really interesting. So there's a couple stories in here, and I'm not going to touch on some of them because some of the stories have words and situations that TikTok actually doesn't like the words and situations, so it will block me. So just so that you are aware, if you want to dive a little deeper and hear all of the stories, you can do that on my Patreon. It is behind a paywall. So in my bio, there is a link to my website and to my Patreon. And in Patreon at the $5 level, you'll get a lot more. Hello, Rain. I'm great. How are you, hun? So she talks in here about enhancing our inner power. This is where I notice a lot with my Reiki clients and people who come to me for tarot readings. And I noticed in my personal life that a lot of times we need to enhance our personal power. This is really important. A lot of times we forget how important our personal power is. And bright blessings to you, Rain. So, and I did see your other one, your other comment. So she's talking about how each of the different chakras represent a different version or manifestation. And that when we are dealing with our sacral chakra, we are really pushing ourselves to grow more and to enjoy ourselves and find that self-esteem. And when we don't have our self-esteem, that can be damaging. Now, she does not talk about, she doesn't really talk about like affirmations in here. I'm going to throw out that, sorry, oh my gosh, the incense is starting to come to my mouth. She does, like a lot of the spiritual community, we talk about affirmations. And I think one of the most important affirmations, at least for me, all right, it might not be for you, is I love myself. So you really want to open up your third chakra? Just say, I love myself. It actually shifts your train of thought. There's a really great guy. His name is Dashi, and he's on YouTube. He literally has, like, his videos, they're subliminal. And you're supposed to put them on and listen to them when you go to sleep. And they're pretty long. They're like, between 7 and 9 hours. And one of them, he literally just says, I love myself. I love myself. And you're listening to it as if you're saying it subconsciously. And as you do that subconsciously, it literally shifts your train of thought and the way you think. So if you have a low self-esteem, that's like one of the most beautiful ones you can do. I have it like all over my house. Like I have it as a post-it on my fridge and in my bathroom. And my husband and my son, they used to tease me about it, but I noticed even for them, a shift for them, that they were starting to love themselves more. So it does, because like you look at it and it says, I love myself. Like when you're reading it, I love myself, right? So it's right there. It's in your face. So it's like a really great way to actually boost your self-esteem. So she doesn't really talk about adding daily affirmations, but I found this to be something that has been a really wonderful blessing. So daily affirmations are great. Also keep in mind, if you follow me, there is a daily affirmation every day with a quote. So you can always watch that little video. They're usually about 30 to 40 seconds. So yes, I love that. Your home is full of paper. Yeah, well, we need like those reminders, especially like if something happens that makes your day not as good as it should be. Just seeing like, I love myself, that's going to change how you think. So that's something to think about. So there was a really interesting story that she gave on enhancing your inner power. And so she had a client who was a woman, and she had been married for 18 years to a man that she had had a business partnership with. She was kind of the brains of the operation in the story. And she talks about that when her and her husband got together, I love this. I love how a lot of you are like, yes, sticky Post-its with positive thoughts everywhere. I love it, everybody. We all have the same thought process. So that's always wonderful. So back to this story. So the story that she gives about this woman, her name is actually Penny, and I can say that because she says the lady's name in her story. So Penny married this guy, and this guy happened to be addicted to alcoholic beverages. I don't know if I can say that. So we're just going to say beverages that make you happy. Well, some people think make you happy. And it became a problem. So she would work, come home, take care of the house, take care of her dogs. And then by dinner time, he would pour her beverage. He was drinking his beverage, and she started to realize there was a problem. So she went to AA, and her life changed. And she decided that as she decided that beverages were not for her, she had to let go of her job that was with her husband, and she had to let go of her husband because it was unhealthy. And she figured out this is unhealthy, and we're together in an unhealthy way. So she ended up going into neuro-linguistic programming and got a new job. And she does seminars on personal development. So she changed her life. And like when we look at this, actually, there's a lot of really amazing people when you look at self-help or in the spiritual community that have done this same thing, where they have had some type of an addiction. And when they started to go through the process of healing and like recognizing this isn't healthy for me, all of a sudden it was like a huge light switch went off and they grew into these really great people. And a lot of people who do self-help are people who have done this. Like even for me, when I personally was going through my difficult time, I met my husband and I even said to him, I said, I have too much baggage. The minute he said, I love you, I said, I have too much baggage, even though I was in love with him. And he goes, but I love you anyway. And that was a strong thing. And then he was like, well, you're into all this like holistic stuff and you're really trying really hard. He's like, let's do Reiki. He's like, I'm a Reiki practitioner, and that changed my life. And now like I can help others in that same way. So that's like something really, like most people in the spiritual community and most people that are like spiritual coaches or Reiki or energy healers or crystal healers or sound therapy healers, a lot of people who are healers or in the self-help community or spiritual community actually lived through some pretty dark stuff, and they learned a lot and have all these beautiful tools and are ready to share. So, and again, like this book that we're reading, it's, Carolyn went through stuff too. And so now she's got like, this is like one of the ways that helped her. So this is a way that may help you. That's why I really like this book too. So hopefully it will help all of us. Even if we just get like one little thing out of it that we can apply to our life, that's like the most important thing, right? And I wanted to thank everybody for the gifts and all the hearts. The hearts help so much. I really do appreciate it. And again, if you've read the book, if you read this last chapter this last week and you want to come up on panel, please feel free to request. Other than that, you get to listen to me talk. So I know sometimes I have Bryn and Azriel and a couple other people that usually come up on panel, and maybe they'll jump up tonight. I don't know. But until then, you have me. So, okay, I really did love this. She says, the stronger our spirits become, the less authority linear time can exercise in our lives. Linear time is an illusion of the physical world, tied into the physical energy of the first three chakras. I really did like that. She does talk about people with illnesses and disabilities, like how they need to shift their mind and shift their thinking. She does actually talk about a woman named Margaret who her parents were very ordinary and they really controlled everything she did as a kid. So, all right, this is where a lot of generational stuff comes in. And as I was reading this, I'm like, oh, generations. So think about it. So when we look at baby boomers, and I can't remember the name of the group before them. So before baby boomers were born, everything had a place and a reason for being done. And so rules and regulations that parents had in their households came across strict. Well, baby boomers were kind of the same. They were raised in that strictness. So, but when baby boomers started to come around, they were very strict. At the same token, what they did to the X generation was, because both parents had to work, X generation kids really had to grow up on their own. And it's really interesting because I had like a long discussion. I'm an X generation, and we were talking about our parents in this group. We were talking about how they were really strict and wouldn't allow certain books and certain movies and certain this and that. Yet we were babysitting our siblings when we were like 8 years old, and we were the latchkey kids coming home. So we were literally independent, but restricted independent. And so you get the X generation who then tries to be a little bit more hovering. So you have a lot of X generation parents that kind of hovered. So when the millennials were born, they got like mixed messages. So like generations, as we're trying to figure out spiritually, where are we supposed to be? How are we supposed to raise our kids? Because let's face it, did your kids come with a handbook? Mine sure didn't. And if you don't have kids, it's okay. They don't come with handbooks. It's just like, you can buy books on parenting, but they don't come with a specific one for each kid. So she did bring this up. And so like I was thinking about that and thinking about all the different generational things that we have out there and how different it is, right? And you can look at it like my kids are raising my grandkids different than I raised them. And it's like, wow, if you knew how I was, like there's just these differences. So she was talking about this. And so Margaret grew up, and keep in mind, all of the clients she talks about are clients she saw in the 1990s. So these are probably boomers or X generation. But her parents had said the only thing she could do was be a teacher or a nurse. That was kind of like the thing you could do at that time. So I'm guessing Margaret's probably a baby boomer based on that information. But that's what she did. And her and her husband moved to a small town, and she was working for a company that provided home care nursing to people. Well, a woman called, and she was like the town troublemaker is what did they call her? Oh, she was the dangerous person in town. No, she didn't have a criminal record or anything. What was dangerous about her was that it sounds like she was doing energy healing, literally doing energy healing. And so her story is that Margaret, the client, was going around this woman and taking care of her, became really good friends, and she told her how she had healed people. And in this healing process, it became like they got really, really close. Well, her husband didn't want her near this woman. Now, it was, you did not fight your husband, is how Margaret grew up. And so she talks about how she told her husband, I'm supposed to spend time with her. So she kept spending time with her. Her husband ends up getting a disease, a very serious one, that began the big C. We'll just say that, the big C. And he actually says, hey, I want this woman to heal me. And she heals him. And then Margaret and her husband then dedicated their life to taking care of others and teaching them energy healing and how to shift their mindset so that you can think positive and get rid of those feelings that cause us to have disease. I mean, a lot of what she talks about in here, because Carolyn Myss is a medical intuitive, is the diseases that we create for ourselves because of our mindset. So it is really that eye-opener. So if you've got like certain illnesses, this is really important to actually hear all of these chapters, or at least hear the discussions. So I would, again, I'm going to hold up the book just so that you know, Anatomy of the Spirit by Carolyn Myss. So I do play the replay of the book. You can get that on my YouTube and on my Patreon channel. So you can get that. So if you came in late, you can still get it and listen to it at any time. And that will kind of help you, especially like if you have like issues in different parts of the body and you're like, I miss that body part. You can at least hear it. So she does talk about that, and that a lot of our childhood memories can be a source of pain. And that again is how we are raised. And we're going to have the generational, we're going to have the culture of where we grew up, and cultures are going to be different. Like if you live in Chicago or New York or Los Angeles, or if you live in a really small town, the cultures are going to be completely different. And what the societal expectations are going to be completely different. And so we want to take that in mind. So, then she jumps into the next section, which is self-esteem and intuition. And she said that, a lot of people, and I'm trying to find the correct quote. She was talking about how a lot of people have a hard time discerning what intuition is. And a lot of people thought it was more like intuition was like prophecy, like we're supposed to have ESP, like be psychics. And it's not. Everybody has intuition, but it's a matter, and like she talks about this. Do you have a strong enough self-esteem? This is our gut. So if you ever take a multiple choice test, 2 of the answers, like if there's 4 answers or more, 4 answers or more, 2 of the 3 of the questions are throwaways. 1 is the correct answer, and 1 is really close to the correct answer. It's supposed to be there to trick you intentionally. And when you're going through a multiple choice question, did you ever go, I'm sure the answer's B, and then you read it and you second guess yourself and you do A? A is the trick. B was correct. And if you go back and you're like, oh my gosh, I knew B was right, but I circled the wrong one. You didn't follow your intuition. You didn't follow your gut instinct. So when I describe intuition, I use gut instinct. Yes. So we want to follow our gut instinct. That's like really important and critical to do, is to follow our gut instinct. That's literally our intuition. And what she's talking about in this chapter is she's talking about how a lot of us and a lot of her clients that she's had have, because their self-esteems have been low, they had a hard time following their gut instinct. And I was thinking about that. Like, it was really funny. Like, because I remembered having the discussion with my husband about it when I read it back in 2019. And I was like, telling him, when I doubt myself, that's when I like ask you, or I ask my dad, or like, depending on what it is, I ask someone else when I know what the real answer is. And we don't need justification. We know in our heart what it is. Like, if we know we're supposed to turn right and our gut's telling us to turn right, but then we're like, should I turn left? No, we turn right. So that's something to think about. And I like this comment, peace be within us. Yes, it is. So she does talk about that. All right. So now she's throwing out something extra. So in this book, we're supposed to learn the 7 stages of healing and empowerment to like power ourselves. But with our 3rd chakra, she's throwing something really cool out to us. The 4 stages of personal power. So this was where a lot of this generational stuff that I've been talking about comes out. So in this section, and if you happen to have the newer edition book, it's on page 185. She talks about the 4 stages of personal power, and it starts that self-esteem became a word that became popular in the 1960s. So let's think about the 60s. There was a lot going on. The Vietnam War was going on. Okay, Myanmar. Well, this is the book. And like I said, if you want, you can join my Patreon at the $5 level, because you'll get a lot of this that we talk about tonight. And that is in my link. So if you're not following me, please remember to follow. That's like, really important that we follow everybody. And I do want to throw out thank you for the gifts that I've received so far tonight. And we are doing beautiful on the hearts and the likes. So thank you, everybody. So in the 1960s, we had the Vietnam War was going on, and it was really a time women were really empowering themselves. If you think about it, and in the United States, there were a lot of protests going on because people were against the war. So this was a huge time period for change, a lot of change. And some of that change came about with the word self-esteem. So it started to become accepted. So she talks about how previously it was selfish to have self-esteem. Well, all right, let's be honest. If you have a low self-esteem and you're raising children, or you're trying to be a positive influence, you can't, because you already have a low self-esteem. So you're teaching low self-esteem. So we want to have a high self-esteem. We want to be positive in our lives. And so it's really important for us to have that positive, high self-esteem. So she kind of talks about that. And then she talks about, in in the 70s, so the 60s was a decade of revolution, is what she says. And then the 70s was a decade of involution, which meant that energy of having a self-esteem in the 60s was breaking down internal barriers. And in the 70s, we were breaking those internal barriers, and psychotherapy was starting to become very important. It was like a new thing. And the word self was becoming very important. And it was get rid of the ish, because we're not selfish. You have to take care of yourself. And I really, truly believe if we do not take care of ourselves and make sure that we are strong, empowered people, we can't take care of other people in our life. And let's see, we have this. Had many times thinking I had higher normal self-esteem, but it was low. Yeah, you know what? A lot of us have. Thank you for sharing. That's a lot to share. A lot of us have. And a lot of times it's hard to get that up. That's why, have the posted around your house of I love myself. Because when we remember that we love ourselves, that increases our self-esteem. So she talks about in the 70s, self became so accepted and commonly used. This was when we had self-motivation, self-healing, self-awareness. And then self became indulgent in the 1980s. Now, I was a teenager in the 80s. So, and with my family life I wasn't very indulgent. And let's see, it's very difficult. Mine is improving. Yes, it is difficult. But this is where a lot of these little tools that we talk about, they will help us. They will truly, truly help us. So if this book doesn't help guide you, the spiritual community will. That's why you're here. When we're part of the spiritual community, we are literally drawn here to help ourselves become better people. So you're in the right place at the right time. That's just it, is the divine cosmos brings us where we're supposed to be at the right time. So in the 80s, it was really fast paced. So think about Studio 56, right? Yeah, I'll hold the book up. I had a question to hold the book up. So Anatomy of the Spirit by Carolyn Myss. And I'll hold it there for just a little bit for those that are just joining and those that are oh, this is so good. So, all right. So, the 80s became very indulgent, and people were living a little wild because it was I can do whatever I want, right? However, we do have consequences. If we eat too much, we can become diabetic or overweight, which isn't healthy for our heart and other organs of our bodies. So she's kind of talking about that. And then, as she talks about in the 90s, the pendulum swings yet again another direction, because now it was taking this energy pattern and creating a powerful self. So this is where the stages come from. So stage 1 is revolution. Stage 2 is involution. Stage 3 is narcissism. And stage 4 is evolution. So she was talking about, and I'm just actually going to read this. We have to work to discover ourselves, to understand why we keep secrets, why we might have addiction or blame others for our errors. We must work to understand why we find it difficult to receive or give a compliment, or whether we carry shame within us. We need to be comfortable with taking pride in our character and accomplishments. We need to learn the parameters of our character, how much of ourselves we will compromise and where we draw the line, or even if we draw the line. Creating an identity for ourselves is based upon self-discovery and not upon biological and ethical inheritance. And that's when she jumps into the stages. So revolution is separating from, oh, I love that comment. Yes, shadow work plate. You know what? We can look at our shadow work in these stages too. So think about it. And I'm going to repeat the stages just if you are taking notes, because it is really great to take notes. And again, if you came late, or if you're like, I don't have paper to take notes right now, you can rewatch the live. I will have it posted by at least Tuesday this next week on my YouTube and my Patreon. So you can always follow me on YouTube or Patreon. So stage 1 is revolution. Stage 2 is involution. Stage 3 is narcissism. And stage 4 is evolution. So back to stage 1, revolution. This is where we actually are like, my opinion differs from my parents. My opinion differs from my peers. Same name. My YouTube channel is Triple Goddess Apothecary and Reiki. And my Patreon is in my bio. So there's 2 links in my bio. One takes you to my website. One takes you to the Patreon. But if you hit the one that takes you to my website, you can go on my website where it says Patreon and click Patreon. And then you can go to a Patreon there. So just that way you can find me. So I'm either under Rowan Ravenwolf or Triple Goddess Apothecary and Reiki. So, and I know it's a long name. I love long names. So literally revolution is us realizing that we are different than everybody else. And we don't want to be the same, because everybody has beautiful talents and gifts. So that's really, really important to understand. She talks about, actually, she gives a story about a client named Jerry. And Jerry contacted her for a reading. So, and again, her readings are medicinal. She's an intuitive medicinal reader. I think that's how you would say it. I may be saying it a little weird. But she talks about Jerry contacted her because he was having a lot of issues in his colon, and it wasn't healthy. Well, he had met a woman, and we're going to call her Jane. Well, at least that's what she calls her in the book. And Jane, everything started out fine. They moved in together, and then Jane decided that she liked rugs. So it was creating conflicts. She was taking money from Jerry, and the relationship was going downhill, and it was going downhill fast. And he knew what it was, but he was not confronting her. And so he had to develop that inner strength to say, this is not okay. And he did. So it was very challenging for him. This was his personal revolution, was to ask Jane to leave and to move on with his life because she wasn't healthy. So sometimes we get involved with people that aren't healthy for us, and it literally is a revolution to leave the person because they hold us back. And it can be anything can hold us back. And the thing is when we're around something that's not healthy, it brings us down. And then when we are around things that are healthy, we get brought up. It's just like when we're around negativity, we become negative. Our thinking is negative. When we're around positivity, our positivity increases and we become better. So that's really what she's talking about. And that's what revolution is. It's like realizing that you have the inner strength. You can do anything. Like, you can literally do anything. You just need to find that courage and that strength to do it. So I know that's like so hard. It's so much easier said than done, but we do it in baby steps. So I do love that movie. What About Bob? How they're like baby steps, baby steps. I mean, like, you know what? Revolutionary. We have to take baby steps to heal ourselves. So there's our revolution, our baby steps to stand up for ourselves and to find our inner strength and be able to self-examine ourselves and say, I don't like this, and I'm going to say no. Because sometimes it's really hard to say no. So Carolyn moves us into stage 2, which is involution. And this is like, we literally ask ourselves, what do I believe? What else do I believe? We're going to have that wake up moment in our revolution where we're like, oh my gosh. And involution is, what else do I believe? What else do I think? you know yourself the best. I love that. I practice saying no. You know, it really is important for us to be able to say no, especially when we're like people pleasers and we say yes all the time. I'm guilty of that. I am very, very guilty. I think a lot of people don't like hurting people's feelings too. Because I like when I start falling into that trap, it's funny. My husband will remind me and I will remind him. It's really funny because every once in a while we're like, oh, people pleasing. We're people pleasing. So, ask yourself, am I people pleasing? Call back and say no. So in the involution stage, this is when we literally find out what we truly believe in, and how we can become better. She gives a story about a mother and she got sick. So before she got sick, her children were adults, but her children would call and say, can you go do the grocery shopping for me? Or can you take care of my kids? Or can you do this? So her kids were still relying on her as if they were children. And here she's going through chemo and radiation therapy. And her kids are asking her, instead of saying, are you better? What can we do for you? They're saying, when will you be able to take care of us again? And it was that click in her mind. It was like, boom, light bulb goes off, right? And she's like, oh my gosh, they're taking advantage of me. So she literally said to them that she would no longer do endless babysitting jobs. She would no longer fix major meals for them. She was no longer going to drop what she was doing and run errands for them. She said, I have a right to say no. And what was really interesting in this story is it was not just the fact that she was people pleasing. It actually caused her illness. So we literally cause our own illnesses because of the way we think when we don't take care of ourselves. And it's not, you could be eating healthy, but if you're like telling everybody yes and you're running yourself ragged, you're going to make yourself sick. Like, it's completely true. I love this. I love you guys. This is so beautiful. I'm seeing everybody saying, I love myself. I'm seeing positive affirmations. This is so beautiful. We are all in our involution, right? We're growing. We're going to be evolving. So yeah, so she stood up. They actually tried to do an intervention with her and she stood her ground. So I love saying, yes, kudos to you for telling your kids, like, you know, we do need to let them leave the nest. Sometimes that's like a scary thing to do, but we can help occasionally. We don't need to like put our life on hold. Yeah, we want our grandkids in our life. We want our kids in our life, but you don't have to make everything about them. We need to have ourselves. So even like one thing I did when I was a mother, and it took me like a lot, well, I'm still a mother, but when my kids were in my house, when my kids weren't adults, I realized every single thing I did for them. My life literally evolved around who's in choir, who's in drama, who's in baseball, who's in soccer, who's in dance, who's in this, like, what is this schedule? And I never had time for myself. And then I started like taking little bits of time for myself. Like, I'm going to go to the book club with the other moms. I started doing that and my kids did not like it very much, but you have to do it because if you don't, when your kids grow up and leave the nest, we don't know who we are. You don't know who you are and you have to rediscover yourself. So this is why self-love, self-healing, and like, this is why the self is so important. So you do have to have time for yourself. It's not neglectful to spend 2 hours with your friends or to go on a date night with your significant other and away from your kids. And it's healthy for them to not like rely on you 100%. Also, like, I know when I was growing up, like, I was so glad when my mom and dad started kind of letting loose of the leash, so to speak, right? And one of the girls that I had been friends with since, like, I was probably like 4 years old, maybe 3 years old, she did not want to leave her mother's side. And everything she did was what her mom liked. And I'm older now. She's older now. She still lives at home with her parents. Her parents are aging. Our parents are a lot older. And it's really sad because she does not have a sense of self. She even, last time I'd seen her, it's been about 10 years. And she's like, I just can't find anybody to date. Well, when she'd get asked out, and she's a beautiful, beautiful woman. I mean, she's absolutely beautiful. But because she wants mom and dad around all the time, when she would get asked out on a date, even in our 20s and 30s and 40s, she would have her mom and dad go with. So it would be a double date with her parents. It's intimidating, right? I hope that she figures it out. I mean, we're up there and a lot of life has passed by. So, we can see these examples in our lives. You may know somebody that's the same thing. I see that somebody says, yeah, it makes me sad. You know what? It makes me sad too, because she was just a really cute girl. I also think part of it was one time when we were out biking, and her mom was the only stay-at-home mom. She actually fell off her bike and got hurt, and she got really clingy to her mom after that. And that might have been the catalyst. It might have been a big trauma for her. So, I mean, she had to go to the hospital and get some stitches, but yeah, it might have made her feel guilty. I don't know. I really don't know. Like I said, her mom was the only stay-at-home mom. Everybody else's both parents were working, and we were always running around the neighborhood just doing whatever. So, I mean, there's a lot of things, but until she goes through her evolution and involution, she's going to be stuck where she's at. And I wanted to just kind of talk about that because she was stuck like the Emma that Carolyn Myss talks about in the book. So the next stage is narcissism. So this is just where we take our self-care a little too far. And you know what? We're all going to do it. It's okay. It's part of our learning process and it's part of our growing process. It's just a matter of not becoming narcissistic. So, she talks about she does talk about how narcissism gets a bad rap, but not all narcissism is like the psychological disorder that we unfortunately see in people. So kind of keep that in mind. I would probably use a different word than narcissism, just because narcissism is a psychological diagnosis with like something a little, and I see that. I agree. Yes, narcissism is a little bit too much. I'd say excessive self-care maybe, because if we're able to get out of excessive self-care, we're not narcissists. Where narcissism is something that just keeps going and going and going, right? Like it's people that don't want to heal. So I think narcissism is probably not the best word for it. But she talks about this, like this is us giving ourselves new hairstyles, new clothes, maybe going into personal training, exercising, but finding what we need within ourselves. But she does talk about, she actually gives this story about Gary, one of her clients, and he actually was dressing up formal. So most of the time his friends would go in like t-shirts, like I got a t-shirt on today, and jeans, and he started actually wearing suits to concerts and to the theater and was starting to change. This was his going into this narcissistic level. Part of this, he wanted to break free from his group of friends and the control from his group of friends. But he was also homosexual, and he was a little scared about talking to his family about it. But as he wore what he wanted, and as he became strong enough to be who he was able to actually tell his parents, which was like a big step. So I think this example is like where you push it just, it's not the same thing that we hear of. It's like just that pushing it and not jumping out. Not like saying, this is who I am. You need to accept me for who I am. So it's just that little too much self-care. And we can do that where like, Are we ignoring our significant other because now we have a self-care regimen every day? That would be kind of what I'm thinking here. So, all right. And so the last stage is stage 4 is evolution. And I think, yep, Bren's here. Yay, he's here just in time. Hi, Bren.
So what's the theme for this week?
I don't know if you heard about the stages. Do you want to add on? I can't remember.
I haven't heard any of the stages.
The stages. Okay, so we've talked about. We're talking about the third chakra, our solar plexus, and she gave 3 stages of becoming ourselves and gaining a self-esteem. So the first stage was revolution, of figuring out that we want to break away from the group and break away and be a unique person. Stage 2 is involution, where we start to figure out what we actually think and what we actually want. And then she calls the third stage narcissism, but it's not narcissism.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's like kind of doing the self-care, but then going a little bit overboard. So I don't necessarily think it would be narcissism. I don't think that's like the best word for it, because it's really like not setting boundaries for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Where, I mean, personally, I think like a narcissist, if they don't get the correct psychotherapy, they're just going to still be jerks to everybody around.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you want to throw.
I could definitely add. What was the first one again?
The first one was revolution.
Okay. Well, so the solar plexus chakra. Well, that's the third, of course.
Yep.
It's the third one, which is the one that's associated with King Surya, the soul, and that would be essentially like in the diaphragm area. So, and also the diaphragm where the navel is a little bit up a little. That's where it would be at, and that's. I'm trying to find a way to put this. It's believed that's where the soul resides in that spot. But with that in mind, the revolution is, well, the easiest way to put it, it's the aha moment. The realization that, wait a minute, this resonates, or, I don't think this resonates with me. And then discerning from there. But then when you're going on to the next step, which is, what was it again? Intervolution?
Involution.
Involution.
Yeah, involution. So internalizing, figuring out who you are internally.
Mm-hmm. And that goes along the lines of the correspondences of the self, what one aligns with. And the only way to figure that out is, well, you have to witness and you have to experience these other things to find what you resonate with. And astrology can help with that too, but just sprinkling that out there. But that requires that ability to allow that to play out. Because the minute that you find one thing that resonates, like for an example, aha, I resonate with astrology, good. I don't want anything else. You're locking yourself. Don't. Yeah, good. You found one thing that you resonate with, good. And you're having that revelation of it, good. But there's a lot more that is available. Don't just be all in with one. You might be having that resonance towards, say, like crystals and gemstones. You might have resonance towards working with a way of creative art. You may not have a resonance with a certain way of having your home. But you have to witness, experience, and give things that opportunity to discern, yes, no. Not at this moment. Or, who knows, maybe you have something that resonates, then out of nowhere you feel, not feeling this anymore. Then something comes in. But you have to allow those opportunities to come in and just allow that to flow. Because keeping something stuck in there and not allowing it to even grow on its own or even decay and allow something else to come in, it's like disrupting the natural flow. When you disrupt the natural flow, stagnant, and it starts to, yeah. Mm. But now for the narcissism. Well, there is a fine, thick line of narcissism for the sustaining and preserving the self. Then there's the narcissism that is like, duct tape, please, over the mouth. And narcissism to prioritize oneself for survival and well-being, well, that's not negotiable. You have to make sure that you yourself are having your needs met and are having your wants be met, but at the same time knowing when you are satisfied and content. But when you take it to the other extreme, it's just like, I'm the only person that matters. Well, technically, yes, that is true, but you have to think about the other people too. It's like that fine discernment. And when like with the solar plexus being of the sun, when you have that light being so bright, it's like, you're blinding us. Tell this flaming guy to turn his flame down. Gosh, sheesh, it's like he lifted up his shirt. Gosh, put it away. And then when you have it too dim, you're suppressing yourself. You're not allowing yourself to be open, so that way you can see what's more in the areas that are in the dark. And only you can make that discernment for that. And that authenticity. And what was the next one?
Well, the next one we were just going to jump into.
Cannonball. Okay, let's see.
Yep. So I hope that helps everybody. And I see somebody say that they want to study astrology. So we're going to be talking about Venus this week on Thursday. So.
Oh boy, I have the gems. You're going to be thinking, she does what? Oh, just wait.
Oh yes, Thursday's going to be fun. So.
And unexpected. I can guarantee you'll be thinking, Venus does that? Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Soul planet.
Okay, so stage 4 is evolution. And this is where she talks about a stage of developing self-esteem where we maintain our principles, our dignity, and our faith without compromising our energy from our spirit. She compares this to Gandhi and Nelson Mandela. She does also say Mother Teresa. However, there's a few things I've heard, and I can't confirm with Mother Teresa, but she does do these. She talks about how, there are other people who have done just as great things as Gandhi and Nelson Mandela and Mother Teresa that are not as known. But this is like developing our evolution where we put everything out there. Like, look at what Gandhi did, like how he did hunger strikes to get what he needed. And like when we look at these. So yeah, Brett, you want to add anything here?
Yep. And and this is kind of where the big plot twist comes in. That same evolution and having these figures being remembered for what they did, those same, I'm just going to use the word feats that they did, people that are not well known do that every day. Every day there's somebody doing something like they did, if not more. And it could even be something as simple as someone giving space and sticking by somebody who, say, has a psychological disorder, they cannot function, and this person is helping guide them through life. And that person feels fulfilled doing that. They know it's a struggle, but they're still helping this one person get what they need. And as soon as they get what they need and they're in better hands, or say that they stuck by them and they pass away, that brings them that light knowing that they helped get them as far as they could before their ending. But things like that, knowing that this is a talent that I have and I recognize within myself, so I'm going to use this light that I have to help guide people through life. That, I mean, you can have any famous person do all these major things, but to be at somebody's oh gosh, I was about to get emotional. Like I'm starting to feel the feels, so you know it's legit. But when you're the light for somebody else and guiding them through, sticking by their side and allowing them to still grow and helping them get through all the challenges that they would not be able to function without that help. I mean, I can't even describe how more of an impact that can be for anything else. And some people are built like that. They feel fulfilled helping somebody be able to have that chance at life that they couldn't have on their own. Oh, I mean, I'm all covered in goosebumps now.
Right? Yeah. I mean, I think about like one of my Reiki masters, how she's been such a profound influence in my life. Um, not that the other one wasn't, but one just was a little bit stronger than the other. And we usually have that. Like, we'll have a teacher or a mentor that will give us what we need to evolve. Like, they literally hand us the keys. So then it's like we have to take that and what are we going to do with it?
Yes, I can definitely agree with that one because, well, and it's just so funny because we're going on the route of mentor, and I mean, I had to turn my camera on for this so that way you can see. Um, I'm actually holding my mentor's. We can't really see it, but I'll see if I can get it up about high. Tanzanite, and this was my mentor's favorite stone, his absolute favorite. And I'm holding it, but he his name is Russell. He just came out of nowhere, literally just out of nowhere on Facebook, and he just said, "Well, I don't know why, but I feel that I need to speak to you." I'm like, okay. Got to know him, and then long and behold, he asked me one day in December of 2017, "Oh, have you studied astrology?" "No, I haven't really looked into it. Why do you ask?" "Okay, tomorrow, 5 a.m., I'm going to call you. Answer." Okay. Not at all knowing what I was getting myself into. And from that day onward, up until his last breath, he taught me all that he could and drilled it into my head. And even beyond just learning anything of the occult or those studies, like even with the connection with my significant other, because he as well went through similar things that him and his significant other went through. His significant other had challenges with like psychosis and schizophrenia. Mine has that same challenge, but sadly for him, he was not able to see his other half, Billy, before he passed. So in a way, it kind of felt like he was trying to make sure that I would not ever have experienced that too. Which I mean, I can't even say how grateful I am for that. So he gave me so many keys to life, and I don't want to misuse them. And I want to make sure that I don't forget them. And I'm trying not to get emotional too, by the way.
Well, and it's hard when you're holding a handful of Tanzanite that was his too.
Yep, because it's like that connection is just there.
Yep. And Tanzanite is a beautiful stone for anybody who hasn't worked with it before. I know I have little pieces of it, and I'm like, I want a big piece, but it is not. It's rare. We'll just say it's very rare. So little pieces.
It's more valuable than diamonds.
Yep. There are a lot of crystals and stones out there that are more valuable than diamonds. So, like, I can honestly say they're like, I don't need a diamond.
And I mean,
I'm like, literally, my husband's like, what do you want? I have a moonstone.
And even that too can be even more meaningful than, of course, diamond being Venus. But when you have a stone that makes you feel connected to someone, it changes it. And although would I prefer, Russell having a stone that probably wasn't Tanzanite, and I had to spend about, I don't know, close to $100 for just this. I promised, and I got it just before he passed away. So, yeah, honor that word, though. But anyway.
So hopefully we're all blessed to have someone that can influence our life like that. So that was the 4 stages, and we've kind of like given you guys some beautiful stories here. So she does talk about challenges on our journey. So our journey to becoming better people. She talks about developing self-understanding, independence, and self-respect. And we can do this with our third chakra. And so her concept for this chakra is honor oneself. So how can you do it? I know earlier we talked about like, daily affirmations, and the strongest I still to this day think the strongest affirmation is I love myself. I mean, that is extremely profound. And especially if you have a low self-esteem, I'm telling you, when my self-esteem was down really low, I would listen to it every single night. And I still have my post-its. The post-its are worn out, but I still have the post-its all over the house that say I love myself. And those post-its actually helped everybody else that lived in the house too. So what else can we do in our journey to become better people? How can we increase our self-esteem and honor ourselves and open up this third chakra? Bren, do you have any other suggestions? I know that's a big ask.
Well, I mean, if you'd really like to know, I think I might have a great idea. And I'll try my best to keep it very simple because it can get a little bit cray-cray, at least how I explain it. But it's simple yet complicated, but logical. The easiest way is, for an example, say, if you have this thing saying, well, I want to get this. Oh wait, I'm not worthy to get it. Okay, hold on. Why are you saying you're not worthy for it? Well, because of all these reasons. Okay? And that's not good enough to say that you can't get it and not say that you're not worthy for it. And even another thing, are these reasons your reasons or somebody else's reasons? Because somebody else's reasons, they're not yours. They don't apply to you. The only reasons that matter are yours. And that's keeping it simple. But I don't think I am worthy of this because say like in growing up or in circumstances, I was never given this in the first place. Okay, well, let's change it up real quick. So, you saying you're not worthy of it? Nah, you're worthy of it. But nope, you're worthy of it. But nope. Whenever those thoughts pop up to say you're not worthy of this, call it out. Just tell it, shh, I am worthy of it. But don't you, shh, I'm worthy of it. That's it. Nothing more, I'm worthy of it. Comes back again saying, well, nope. Because as far as those thoughts that pop in, I mean, who are they to say that you're worthy of anything? They only last a second. So if something that lasts a second is telling you what you're worthy and not worthy of, yeah, I don't think they have anything to say. You are worthy of it. And that takes a lot of practice. Heck, I'm still guilty of dropping the ball saying, you know what, I'm worthy of this. And I have to catch myself. But knowing that it's just as simple as just telling the thoughts if they start impeding you, nope, I'm worthy of this. And I don't need to explain why. I just said so. And of course, that goes back to that level 3 of the narcissism. That's using it in a healthy way. I'm deserving and I am entitled to be happy. Yes, everybody is. And you should be able to go Hong Kong Phooey for it. All right, you brothers are in big trouble. Hey, do what you have to do for it. But at the same time, understand the choices you make to get that happiness. What has to be done and how you go about it and being aware. Because it can be achieved, but at the same time having that mindfulness. If all that made sense in a nice little wrapped up present thingy or what have you.
Good. It did. I think that there are so many beautiful schools out there, especially when we're part of the spiritual community. Um, and what might work for me or what might work for Bren may or may not work for you. And so just keep tuning in, taking notes, not just with us, but with other people. So again, just for a reminder, we're doing Anatomy of the Spirit by Carolyn Miss. And we are just finishing up the 3rd chapter tonight. Next week will be chapter 4. And it's part 2, chapter 4, or chapter 6, depending on if you have the first edition or if you have the later editions. And if you don't have the book yet, that's fine. You're still, you can learn just joining in and jumping in with us. So, and thank you for all the gifts, and thank you for the likes. We're at 4,000 likes tonight. Thank you so much. So, she talks about as we develop ourselves and as we open up and do this, that really it's honor oneself. Our self-esteem is going to increase, and our intuitive abilities are going to increase and emerge. So that's something to keep in mind, that as we are growing and evolving, literally, we are going to become better people. So I'm going to say the questions at the end. So at the end of every chapter, she has these questions for self-evaluation. I'm not going to let's see. Someone that hugs your sorrows, and even when you're down, even how life is. Oh, that's very sweet. I like that. Thank you. So the questions for self-evaluation are really for you to self-evaluate. If you want to make a comment, please feel free. And Brent, I'm going to read them, and then I'll let you just kind of answer if you want to answer anything. You don't have to answer the questions, but if there's anything you want to add, type thing. So, all right, we're going for this. So this is definitely have a notebook if you want to write the questions down, and if not, the replay will be on my YouTube and on my Patreon. All right, so questions for self-evaluation. Number 1, do you like yourself? If not, what don't you like about yourself and why? Are you actively working to change things about yourself that you don't like? All right, question number 2. Are you honest? Do you sometimes misrepresent the truth? If so, why? Question 3. Are you critical of others? Do you need to blame others as a way of protecting yourself? Number 4. Are you able to admit when you are wrong? Are you open to feedback from other people about yourself? Oh, yep, I can go a little slow. If you need me to repeat one, just let me know. So I'll repeat number 4. Number 4, are you able to admit it when you are wrong? Are you open to feedback from other people about yourself? All right, number 5. And for those writing it down, there are 10 of them. So, and some of them have multiple questions, but all right, number 5. Do you need approval of others? If so, why? Number 6. Do you consider yourself strong or weak? Are you afraid of taking care of yourself? Number 7, have you ever allowed yourself to be in a relationship with a person you didn't really love, but it seemed better than being alone? Number 8, do you respect yourself? Can you decide to make changes in your lifestyle and then stick to your commitment? Smoke coming right to my face. The joy of incense. Okay, number 9. Are you afraid of responsibility? Or do you feel responsible for everything and everyone? And then the last question, question number 10. Are you continually wishing your life were different? If so, are you doing anything to change it? Or have you resigned yourself to the situation? I know these are pretty profound questions. If you need any of them repeated, please feel free to type it in the chat. Bren, any comments or anything that you want to comment on those questions? They're pretty heavy. Like this one's pretty.
All of them. Allow me to answer them all. So let's take it from the top.
Okay. Do you want me to read the question and then you'll answer?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Awesome. All right. So if you are writing them down, you can write a little slower and Bren's going to answer. Do you like yourself? If not, what don't you like about yourself and why? Are you actively working to change the things about yourself that you don't like?
Yes. Because if I didn't, I wouldn't be myself. So I have to accept myself as I am. Because if it wasn't like this, I wouldn't be me. Can I actively change myself? I wouldn't say change, it's just blossom into a more open form of myself.
I love that. Thank you, Bren, for sharing. You know what? I have to say, I like myself right now. Did I always? No. I had a very, very low self-esteem and I was not my authentic self. And I wanted to be, but I was scared to be because I was scared to disappoint other people. And that's like really what this whole chapter is all about. And now I'm like, you know what? Like me for who I am or just don't like me. I don't care. And it's hard to get there. So if you're not there, it can happen. So don't be scared. That's question 1. All right. Question 2. Are you honest? Do you sometimes misrepresent the truth? If so, why?
Honest? All the time? No. Why? Well, when I'm trying my best to represent the truth, I at times equivocate. So that way, at least best in my opinion, the equivocation helps them get the motivation to discover more on their own. Enough to turn, but not be like, yeah, it's that way, you go to the right. No. Be like, yeah, 180 degree to the west, step. Like giving the idea and let them go, if that makes sense.
No.
Because it's not really allowing them to discover and go on their own and then discover and understand their truth. If I'm saying, yes, this is it, and here's all the notes and all the dean's list, here's everything from left to right, but that's what I've discovered for me. I can just point them in the direction that'll be the most helpful, and that's it.
And you know, if you think about it, this is kind of a trick question. Because myself, I'm honest with myself. I'm honest with my significant other. But I think about like my daytime job. Like there's a lot of times I can't just tell someone a specific situation.
Mm-hmm.
Because one, I may not legally be able to tell them to because I have to like balance in my day job. I have to balance legalese with a lot of other stuff. Or sometimes people aren't ready for it. Like I've had people who like asked things and well, I'll never forget this. So I had somebody who said I deal in the medical industry,
Mm-hmm.
and the doctor had said the cause of the medical condition was they were obese. And this was the first, I remember this. I was young. I was very, very young, just out of college. And the person's like, why? Why did the doctor do this? And I'm like, I didn't want to tell them what the doctor said because I didn't want to hurt their feelings. Now I just say it because you know what is it going to do to sugarcoat? You know? But yeah, I think sometimes we may not give the whole truth because we don't want to hurt someone's feelings, or we sugarcoat it to make it easier if it's something that might be negative.
Yes. Though it kind of does challenge you in that situation, like, okay, this is something extremely heavy. How are you going to approach it? Are you going to be very careful with how you deliver it, but tell it for how it is? Or, in like my example, are you going to let them be pointed in the right direction to know where to go and look, but not give them that answer? So it kind of varies,
Yeah,
honestly.
it does. So I don't know that I would say misrepresent the truth. It might be more give partial truth if you can tell the person can't handle it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I also think about, I have some clients that I know exactly what they need to heal their situation. All right. So, like, I'm thinking about one particular client who's having a hard time meditating and they're dealing with like chronic pain. And I know exactly what they need, and they do Reiki twice a month. I'm at their house, I'm giving them a Reiki session, and I give them guidance. I literally say, try this, try this, try this. But I know like they're not ready to shift, if that makes sense. They're not ready to heal. So I can tell them over and over and over again, if you do this, you'll get stronger, you'll get better, you'll feel better. But until a person is ready to make that shift in their life and heal themselves, we can give them all the tools we want. We can tell them this is a tool, this is a tool, this is a tool. You can use it to make your life better. But until they're ready, they won't make themselves better.
Mm-hmm.
And some people, you can't tell them that. Like there are times, like I've literally wanted to say to this client, you are making yourself sick, because this client does this all the time. Like she'll call and be like, oh, I need to reschedule, I'm sick today. So she reschedules her Reiki session, and it's like I know exactly what's going on because I've been dealing with this for 5 years. So I know exactly what's going on. And I'm like, she's just not ready. You know, it's like there's all this beautiful stuff out there, but when you're not ready, you're not ready.
Yep.
Yeah.
Even when that even makes you just want to say, schedule. This is the time when we need to do it now.
Yes, I have said that to her. I did kind of stop because here's where I get. Like I had a couple times kind of confronted her a little bit, but I can tell she's not ready. So because she's not ready, I'm like, okay, you know what? You got to go on your timeline. But what's really cool is this does actually take us to question number 3. Are you critical of others? Do you need to blame others as a way of protecting yourself?
Now, critical. Well, again, I have to say varies. The only time that I get critical of others, and don't get me wrong, I'm somebody that completely can understand, like, honest mistakes or not being aware. But when there's this lovely thing that exists called intended stupidity or inconsiderate ignorance, hold on. Hold on. It's something that I struggle with, most definitely. And I mean, I used to just keep quiet and not say anything. But then that resulted in then coming back onto me, and then I get walked over. And it happening so many times, it gets to the point where it's like, okay, I don't want to do this insanity thing anymore because the same result's happening, so I'm going to try something different. Intended stupidity happens, comes towards me. Okay, let's go wakey wakey, have a visit from the IQ fairy, and let's try that again and not do something that's going to put me in jeopardy. Good. Speaking up. But then at the same time, at least I try my absolute best. And that kind of example, I try to bring it in a way where it does have a little bit of a sarcastic, comedy to it. That way, it's not much of like, stop trying to be in the new Jackass movie. Ugh. But it's still. How do I put it? It's not with the intent to just go with a metaphorically. No, that would definitely be the wrong word. I was going to say flogger them, but like whip them. No, it's not to go with that just like that, but it's meant for the idea of just like, hey, easy. Just having that boundary in the sand. That's the main intent. But not the intent to be like, oh, good, I can crack someone with a nine tail. No. That answers the question.
So I think this one is an interesting question because, well, we've got the two part. Are you critical of others? I can say that growing up in a religion that wasn't supposed to be judgmental, where everybody was judgmental and critical, you would be around people who were constantly judging and being critical of what you wore, being critical of what you said. So I can say at one point in my life I was, but what I have learned, everybody is on their own path, and until we walk in their shoes, we can't really judge, so a lot of times, if they say something offensive, we can always just let them go. They're not supposed to be in our life, right? But I don't think it's even like, I know I've been in workplaces where people are critical of everybody and everything. And it's, oh my gosh. And when you're around it, it brings you down, and sometimes you jump into it. And that's where you have to step back and say, wait, ooh, am I jumping on the critical judgmental train or not? And so when we start to move ourselves out of that of criticizing others, I think in my opinion, when we stop criticizing others and just let them do what makes them happy, we become better people because we're doing what makes us happy. I hate, like, and if you've ever noticed, like, if you're in school or at work or, in a situation where people are criticizing, and if you jump on the criticizing train or the judgmental train or the gossip train, because let's face it, it does turn into gossip. You're just putting a low vibration out there for yourself. So, I mean, that's just like a thought. So I think that's kind of a trick question. But we probably have all kind of done that, because when I'm like looking at that, it's like being critical of others does that, and that's why it's like, all right, if you need to cancel Reiki, that's fine. I understand. Everybody has their own way of doing it, and everybody's going to heal on their own. And then, do you blame others as a way of protecting yourself? I think this is also could be a trick question. Yes, I know. So I'm
I
gonna throw
will
this out.
say
Um,
yes, I have.
yeah, and I have done it too. And you start to actually, when you start to become your authentic self, and you start to reprogram and shift and transform your way of thought, it does change. Now, it's not going to change overnight, but here's something really interesting. Um, I've I've been around people who are so critical and judgmental of other people that you see other people start to like descend into sadness and depression. And you know, there is a certain point where constructive criticism is just being vicious and mean and vindictive. And when I see that, that's when, yeah, you do need to blame the person that's doing it if it's not constructive.
Mm-hmm.
You know, constructive criticism is important for all of us, especially like if you're learning a skill. You know, like if you're learning how to, like if you're taking classes in pottery, or, you know, I'm going to use dance because I danced. I loved when my ballet teacher would come and like, okay, you've got to get up, get your shoulders back, you know, get your head up, chin here, you know, because you can't go out on this stage if you're like this. Like you don't look, it doesn't look good and people don't want to watch that. So you did need to have that constructive criticism. But I do remember in college, I did have one ballet dance teacher, and she was up there in age, but she had a stick, this long stick. And she would not tell you that your stomach was out or that you did a plie and your butt was sticking out. She would whack your body parts. And that was her way of constructive criticism.
Mm-hmm.
And there was one girl that really had a hard time with it. Like, because we didn't know, it wasn't communicated with us. But then there are some people that will be like, you did this wrong, and you did this wrong, and you did this wrong, and every single thing you do is wrong, and that's all they're telling you. They're not telling you, see how you did this? It would be better if you did it like this. That's constructive criticism. But when you're like, you did this wrong, you're a problem, you're aggressive, you're this, you're that, that's when it's unhealthy. So I think that can become kind of a trick question there.
Yes. And I mean, this is coming, at least from my perspective. I used to do mixed martial arts and did kata, which is, you could say, similar to ballet to an extent, or the same concept. And also even being a friend and manager at 19 years old, the youngest. Now, whenever there was anything that I needed to help somebody learn, or I don't even like using this word, to help correct one of my workers, I don't like the idea of writing up, because the minute that you're saying you have to do a write-up or a quote-unquote coaching, that's not really going to help anything, because the minute you put that in the system or have that go in, you're going to lower the morale of your worker. You're going to make them feel worse, because they already know they made the whoopsie. Instead, just walk them through the thing from start to finish, show them where the whoopsie happened, how it happened, and what they can do next time to ensure it doesn't happen again. Leave it at that. Yep. And with constructing now, with criticism now, there is a way to be inspirational with it and to make someone actually learn it. And then there is the other way, which is just like with the other thing. Nitpicking everything and not telling something that somebody's doing really well. Because if there's nothing but negative, it's going to poison their mind. Yeah. And it's going to make them become so demotivated that they're going to not even bother and not even try anymore. Because they're not given that recognition for what's being done correctly. That little thing of giving the recognition of like the way that your foot always is on point when you, after you do your kick, the way that it lands, perfect every time. That little thing makes such a huge difference.
Mhm.
And at least how I was taught, if I'm teaching somebody, because my mentor used to do the same thing that lady did with the stick. He, he would come around and go, whack, your arm's not straight. And I understood why. It's because ensures that that position is on point all the time and everything is as it needs to be. But he told me that if you're going to be teaching a student, you have to be beside them doing it with them so that way they can see it in action. And even though he was a bit more harsh and more tough with it, I was more along the lines of telling whomever I was teaching, you did, you made it through, but let me show you some things that you can do to make it even better. Because that way, it's not coming off in a way where it's in a way that it's going to be pushing them down, saying, well, this is wrong. No. Let me show you how you can make it even better than how you did it. That makes them go, oh, okay, let me see it. It's more open to that. That tiny way of presenting, makes such a huge difference.
Yes.
And nobody wants to hear somebody say, well, this isn't right, this wasn't good. Okay, love, let's see you do it then. Show me how to do it at that precise level. Oh, you can't? So then why are you hyper criticizing them?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it does, like, my favorite dance teacher that I had, and I had her through, oh gosh, when I was like a little kid through high school, she would literally pull you aside. She made sure not to demoralize you in front of the other students. And she'd be like, your shoulders were like this, make sure they're like this. And then she would also tell you, when your shoulders are like this, you can't turn properly, and that's why you're losing your balance. But if your shoulders are like this, you're going to be breathing right, and you'll get, 5 pirouettes in. Oh, okay, cool. I've even seen, like, my husband actually showed me a video over the weekend, and it really plays a good role here. It was a video of a supervisor going up to an employee and saying, we had a complaint about you. And the employee said, well, what was the complaint? Well, I don't want to tell you because then you'll know who complained about you. And the employee said, well, if I don't know what I did wrong, how am I supposed to fix it?
Mm-hmm.
And it does go on from there. And the employee ends up saying to the supervisor, since you won't show me what I did wrong, I don't know why you came to me, because this is a useless conversation. If you're not going to show me what I did wrong, I can't fix it. And, it's really true. And some people's perceptions are different. But yes, this is kind of a trick question here.
Mm-hmm. And I have ran into that many times. And this is, of course, from my experience, whenever I've had anybody complain to me about any of my workers, I put on the front, like, yeah, I understand. I completely understand, and I'm sorry that it happened. And yes, I'll tell that worker that you had that issue. Nope. Nope. Not doing it. Because I value, well, at the time, because when I was working there, my work, the people that I oversaw, they're my everything. They are priority number one. I have to make sure that they're on their game, supported, and they feel, okay, I know if Brendan's, overseeing all of us, I know I'm going to be good. Because I know he'll come in out of left field to anybody, any customer, and say, hey, don't talk to her like that. If I'm the customer, out the door you go. Bye. Yeah, true story.
Yeah. So that one is an interesting question, but we're going to move on. 4, are you able to admit it when you are wrong? Are you open to feedback from other people about yourself?
Yes. If I make a whoopsie, I'm like, yep, I did it. Yep, mm-hmm. I did that. Did I wish I was paying better attention and not have done it? Yes. And now here comes the second part of the question, the second part. I'm always open to it, but with one minor detail. It has to be with the intent for me to understand why. Having a hissy fit saying, well, you're always like this, you're so ungrateful. Nope, don't want to hear anymore. It ain't going to help me nothing.
Mm-hmm. And I actually have the same thing. And and you know what? Like I recently, this is so funny. So I had called, I had made a mistake at my job, and I let my supervisor know, and she's like, okay, what are you doing to fix it? And I told her, and she's like, okay, you're doing what you're supposed to. But I called the person that I'd made the mistake to, because we have like customers. So I called the customer, and I'm like, I started out, I wanted to personally call you and talk to you about this. And it ended up being funny because he's like, oh, you can't leave. He thought I was quitting. And I'm like, I'm not quitting. And he's like, oh, good, because I can't lose you. And I'm like, no, I was calling to apologize. I made a mistake. And then I told him what the mistake was. He was like, oh, okay, no big deal. I was like, what? But it was really funny. Like I told my husband when he came home, he goes, that's funny. And I'm like, yeah, it's really funny. Like he was more worried about me staying than a mistake that I made. But yeah, and yeah, if we make a mistake, how can we fix it? That's like the easiest thing to do. I always even told my kids that when they were growing up. So, and I see a lot of great comments on that too, in the chat.
And that reminds me too, and because this is how the environment that I was raised in. When you're telling your child or whomever you're raising or somebody you're overseeing what to do if a whoopsie happens, and then you say, if you just tell me what happens, I'm going to be more concerned about making sure that you're okay and fixing the problem. If you're saying that, that is a commitment you're making a choice to do.
Yes.
Because when I was in that situation, I was met with hostility. Bad hostility every time I made a mistake.
And
Which
it's not healthy.
it takes a toll. Because then it also impacts your ability to be like, well, the last time I tried and said what happened, I was torn into one. And if I don't tell it, it's still going to be in trouble. So it's like the damn do, damn do. So either way, I'm going to enjoy the peace while I still got it up until it happens. And that's no way to live.
I think sometimes we might have to deal with people like that. And when you do, that's when you have to evaluate, are you in a healthy situation? Like if it's a partner, it might mean that you need to get out of the relationship. If it's a parent, you unfortunately might have to wait till you're 18. If you're an adult child, you can have that conversation or, well, there's lots of options then. If it's in work or school, change your teacher, change jobs. Oh, yep. All right. So we're going to jump to the next one. Okay. So yeah, the next question. Do you need approval from others? If so, why?
Do I need it? Nope. Do I want it? At times. But do I need it? No.
Yep. And it's hard to get there sometimes. I had a hard time getting to that point. And especially, oh my gosh. And I think everybody can relate, like the tail end of elementary school and junior high, for some people, junior high and high school, wanting to just have that approval from others. We don't need it. The most important thing is, are you authentic and are you happy? And if the answer is yes, who cares what other people think?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Do you consider yourself strong or weak? Are you afraid of taking care of yourself?
I can say, but then again, it also depends. Strong as in being able to be resilient, and weak as in the meaning that in some areas I'm not able to fend for myself. So that kind of has that line. But, what was the second part of the question?
Are you afraid of taking care of yourself?
Now, this, at times, yes. Why? Well, again, having an environment that was telling you have to think of other people, having that fear of the unknown, of giving that care to me, that activates it. And that, it sounds crazy, but it's the unknown. Naturally, the unknown is what every person fears. That unknown happens to be in something that is self-sustaining. because the familiar is exterior, other sustaining.
I think that question is okay. So I think she's coming more at it emotionally and mentally versus physically. But if it was physically, like I only have so much strength. I'm not a weightlifter. I can't lift 200 pounds. So, um, but but as far as personal strength and being able to endure things, I am strong. There were times I did not think I was. But again, it's also mind over matter. Like, think you're strong, know you're strong. If you need to make it an affirmation, I am strong. Put it on your fridge, put it on your mirror in your bathroom because you're going to see it a lot, right? Are you afraid of taking care of yourself? This is a very interesting question. So, because I grew up in a Christian patriarchal church, they really taught women to depend on men. Yeah. And, I kind of like, I kind of fought it. I got my degree and I got a really good job. And, when the time came and I became a single mother, I was like, wow, if I had followed what they wanted women to do, which was to be stay-at-home moms, I would not have been able to take care of my children as a single mother. And I literally sat my daughters down and I said, you better be able to mentally and physically take care of yourself. Make sure that you get the skills you need to get a job that will pay all of your bills. Because there is no guarantee in life that somebody will financially take care of you. And, I saw women when I was in that church that were in miserable marriages and their husbands controlled everything. They wouldn't get any money. They couldn't work outside of the home. And they couldn't leave because they could not financially take care of themselves, let alone if they needed to take their kids. So, am I afraid of taking care of myself? No. Can I do it? I've been doing it for many, many years. So that's just one thing I can say. Make sure you can. Make sure it does not matter what gender you associate with, or if you don't associate with a gender. Make sure you have the skills to financially take care of yourself. And if you can financially take care of yourself, you're going to be in a place where you mentally and spiritually can take care of yourself. All right. Have you ever allowed yourself to be in a relationship with a person you didn't really love, but it seemed better than being alone?
Well, this is an interesting question because I've only been with one person and I'm still with him. But even that too, with a friendship.
Yeah.
Yes. Point being is this. Having another individual to have another individual to just be there so that way I would not be alone carrying and knowing that there's someone there to at least either one, be aware of it, or two, be able to have the opportunity for them to act to possibly help or to just have that space be held. Which, again, it can be something of a crutch, but still. It can even be worse being alone and there is still somebody there. And they're not making the choice to act. That is worse. Much worse.
So I'm going to just give I asked my grandmother, and it was the year of my grandparents, of their 50th wedding anniversary. And I said to my grandma, I said, you and grandpa have just like the best relationship in marriage. I'm like, why is it so good? What is your secret? I had just divorced. I had just gone through a divorce, and I was not happy. And she said, this is what my grandmother said. She said, I've always been myself. Your grandpa's always been himself. We have a lot of stuff in common, and we love doing it together. And she said, I can't wait for hunting season sometimes because your grandpa goes off for a whole month and I don't see him and I get to just do whatever the heck I want and he's doing whatever the heck he wants and we are happy. That always kind of stuck with me. So like that's kind of the words she used, but she really was saying be your authentic self. And you don't have to do everything with your partner. You shouldn't need to do everything with your partner. And my husband right now is the most amazing person because we have stuff that we love to do together, but there is things he does that I'm not into, and there's stuff that I do he's not into. I mean, he watches more chick flicks than I do, and I watch like horror films, and he hates them. So we just go in separate rooms and watch them because, like, you know. But then we'll sit and watch, you know, like shows like we just went and saw The Accountant too, and we both you know, like when we go out to a movie, we go to a movie we both want to see. So Bren, I see you want to add something.
Yeah, that is a definite. And I mean, I'll be completely honest. When and this was actually something that between me and mine, of course, most definitely, there is times where you want to include your partner in everything you do. Of course, that's sweet. But at the same time, you can't have that connection with other if you don't know what makes you feel connected to yourself and what brings you joy. As long as you keep your source of joy coming and you're following that and allowing the other person to have that too, while simultaneously having that same joint joy together and being mindful, because there are some things that should not be done and should be communicated about, then that allows it to still give that space for itself, but then come back around together as a unit for that same enjoyment.
Yep. And I see this. Rain made a great comment: accepting who they are without controlling to change. You know, it's so important. If you're with someone that's controlling, it's not a safe environment. Please seek help. That's all I can say there. But yeah. And you know what? You might not love somebody if they are controlling you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the eighth question: do you respect yourself? Can you decide to make changes in your lifestyle and stick to them? Stick to your commitment.
Yeah. Oh, one of my favorite words, commitment. Well, I'd love to put it this way. If you're making the commitment, whether later on down the line you realize what you're committed to or not, you still said you're going to stick. So are you going to go back on your word and not keep it? Because when you give the oath, you still gave the oath. And I mean, heck, I'll be completely honest. I'll be point blank up front. On December 31st of 2015 at 4:50 p.m., the last one of the day in the courthouse, when me and mine got our marriage license, right then and there, I figured, you know what? As soon as, you know, I get that paper in my hands, stuck. And that's how I'm catching it. Later on down the line, if I regret it, oh well. I'm not going to not only go back on that commitment I made towards him, but most importantly, I'm not going to go back on the commitment I made for myself and what I want. So I respect myself to keep my word and to honor myself and do what I can to preserve it and not go back on it. And that also teaches the big important lesson of be aware before you say, yep, I'm going to stick with it. Because once you say you'll stick, it's heavy. That's all I can say.
It is. It is. And it's any commitment. Like if we make a commitment to change our eating habits, if we make a commitment to change our spiritual growth, when we make a commitment, are we going to stick with that commitment? Like, it's a promise to yourself. Do you respect yourself enough to keep your own promise to yourself? Like, if you say, I'm going to attend, you know, tarot class every Tuesday, I'm going to attend astrology class every Wednesday. Like, are you going to be like, I'm not in the mood today? I mean, that's not showing your self-respect, and that's not being committed.
Yep. And that's the number one thing that Saturn always says. He doesn't have feelings like, oh, you don't feel like doing your expectation, huh? Well, I don't like putting up with you, so do it.
Exactly.
Wow.
So yeah, something to evaluate. And you know what, like, even though Bren and I are like putting ourselves out there, you don't have to put yourself out there. And this is just stuff, this is your self-evaluation, like what you need, and it actually will help you figure out what you need to work on too. Okay, so number 9, are you afraid of responsibility, or do you feel responsible for everything and everyone?
Am I afraid of responsibility? Nope. Why? Well, if I made the choice saying, yep, I'm gonna take this on, well, I made the choice to take it on. If I was afraid of something, why am I going to say, I don't want to take that on? Nope, I'm not going to take that on. But if I do, why am I going to be afraid of it? What's the second part of the question?
Do you feel responsible for everything and everyone?
Now, the only responsibility, ultimately, if we're going to get down to the nitty gritty, the only true responsible thing, at least for me, that I have is number 1, myself. Number 2, of course, significant other. Because that's the other half of me to make one. That's it. Everything else, not so much.
So for me, I'm not afraid of responsibility. I was a Generation Xer. I was a latchkey baby, so I was an 8-year-old babysitting my siblings. So literally an infant and a toddler. So, but I think what's really interesting is that, do you feel responsible for everything and everyone? There are times where I can tell people want me to be responsible for them and remind them that they have stuff. And it's like, no, I'm not your mom. So, like, if you can't put this in your calendar and know that we're doing this on this date, that's on you. It's not on me. I used to be that person that would make sure and remind people and like send massive email, but then all I was doing was reminding people of things. It is hard to do sometimes, you know, because some people have to have constant reminders, but I'm only responsible for myself at this point, and I'm living my best life. So no, I won't be responsible for everyone and everything. My husband, yeah, if he says, hey, I have a doctor's appointment next week, I will put it on my calendar, because sometimes he does need a reminder, and I remind him when mine are, but that's different.
Mm-hmm.
All right, the last question is, are you continually wishing your life were different? If so, are you doing anything to change it, or have you resigned yourself to your situation?
Let's see. How's the question worded again?
Are you continually wishing your life were different?
Yes.
Ooh. If so, are you doing anything to change it, or have you resigned yourself to your situation?
Oh boy. It's more like along the lines of, what haven't I done? Things like even the spiritual work, even going within the self and just reminding the self, say, hey, stick with it. Keep going. I know it's been years. Keep going. Been a lot of years. Keep going. If this is truly the route you want to go, well, you've come so far already. Don't stop now. Don't let all the effort that you put in go to waste. You come this far, keep going. And get there by any means necessary. Because at the end of it all, to give up and surrender and let it go, the only person that's going to feel all of that is myself. And do I want to feel all that heaviness of letting that go? Heck no. Oh man, the voice crack. But still, nope. I don't want to feel all that. Instead, I want to feel that when that day comes of being in that spot that I've been striving for years, getting that relief of, oh, finally, it's worth it.
Sunbun said, I'm safe to give up also means I'm ready to be a new me. I like that. Sometimes giving up on the paradigm opens up our intuition, mind to heart. Thank you for that beautiful comment, Sunbun. Or actually, it's Funbun or Sunbun. Well, whichever one. Thank you. This one is. I can be honest. I was in a situation that I was not happy, and I did want my life to be different, and it took me a while, but when I put everything into play, I was so happy, and I'm where I want to be now. And it does take a commitment to change. You have to want the change. You have to be able to want to commit to it. And there's so many people in our spiritual community that have, and you're welcome. Like, if you're like, hey, what was your situation and everything? I don't say my full situation here, but I have, when people have asked me, like, on a private level, I will tell them, this happened, and this happened. I was in the deepest, darkest place that I could be in. And I got out of it, and I'm happy. I am so happy with how things are. And now it's like, when I want to make a change, I make that change. And if it means, okay, this change is going to take 8 months, that's fine. I'm committed to this 8-month change. So that's, I think, really important for us to think about. It does take time, and you have to have grace with yourself, as with anything. Don't put your expectations up here. Take baby steps. I love the baby steps from What About Bob? Like, it is so true. Take the baby steps. Baby steps to the steps. Baby step up to the door. Baby step, ring the doorbell. You remember the scene when he goes to visit his counselor on But literally, it is baby steps. Like, have grace for yourself. It's like learning to walk all over again. When you say, I want to change spiritually, I want to heal, I want this new life, it's baby steps, and take them, and you will find what you need, and it will come to you as it's supposed to.
Yeah. And funny enough, all of that is, well, again, here comes Saturn again. Saturnian. Okay, I want to go after this. This is what I want to change. This is where I want to be. Okay, prove it. Prove it, kid. Show me. Okay, 1 step. Okay, there's 5 steps. Okay, now you're set back. Now what are you going to do? Oh, you're going to keep going? Good. Oh, whoops, you slipped. Now what? Oh, going back up and going again? Oh, still going? Okay, here's a boost. You have to keep going, because who knows? You never know when just out of nowhere something comes and you've been trying, then it gives you a big love tap, and it projects you even more forward than you've ever been. And then you land there plus more. And that's how Saturn behaves.
So this was exciting. I hope everybody has enjoyed Anatomy of the Spirit by Carolyn Miss. So next week we are doing, it's chapter 6. If you have the old edition, or if you have the new edition, it's part 2, chapter 4, the 4th chakra, emotional power. This is our heart chakra. So,
very interesting. It's like being all webbed together with Venus.
Yes. And that was not planned that way. The universe makes things happen the way they're supposed to. And so as we say that, yes, we are talking about Venus on Thursday. So next week is going to be a pretty big heart week. So it's going to be really interesting and fun. So for those that don't know, I am live on Tuesday, Thursdays, and Sundays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. And let's see, 7:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time and 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We have a thank you. This was amazing. It's a new moon. Yes. And if you haven't done your new moon ritual, please do your new moon ritual. Because it is new moon in Taurus. This is a beautiful new moon. So thank you. Yes, we always have a good discussion here.
The new moon in Taurus, especially in the part of Taurus where it's Moon's favorite, in Rohini. Take initiative with your values and what brings you all that happiness and what brings you all that joy. Take that initiative.
I mean, look at how the new moon turned into like this, like literally chapter our third chakra, like like the universe does things the way it's supposed to. So yeah, join me here on Tuesday. Bren usually jumps up and we do 1-card tarot readings. Thursday is spiritual panel, and this week we're talking about the planet Venus in your spiritual pathway, how you can work with it magically, and astrology. Of course, we have to have astrology.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, Sunday, chapter 4. Yep.
I just know when Thursday comes, I just know everybody's going to be all, what? Venus is about that? Yep. You'll be surprised.
Venus is very, very exciting. I know, like, we kind of, like, went through Jupiter. It felt pretty fast, but, like, Venus will probably be on for a while. We'll get excited. You'll see us.
I'll leave one gem, though. Between Venus and Jupiter, the two gurus, Venus is the most powerful. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, I agree. So I want to thank everybody for the hearts and everybody who gave gifts. We really appreciate it. We will be here again next week. Next Sunday, Anatomy of the Spirit by Carolyn Miss. Heart chakra. Woo, hearts. And if you are not following either of us, please make sure to follow us. And if you've missed the other discussions on this book, they will be on my YouTube channel and on my Patreon. So you can go to either of those. Bren, anything you want to add? Like, do you want to tell everybody a little bit about what you do? And I know you go live every rare once in a while, but you're usually here with me. So,
Well, I've been thinking about going live more often, and I do also provide live readings too. Just send me a message, and then we can go from there, and even do like a live reading on a live stream if that's an option. But other than that, yeah. I'm all ready for Thursday.
Well, we got to do readings on. Yep. We have readings for Tuesday first. Yeah. And you know what? At this rate, we're probably going to get a lot of love readings on Tuesday. So yeah, don't forget to come get your 1-card reading. So what's really cool. Bren and I really are synced with each other. So you get 1 card from me and 1 card from Bren. Every once in a while, we do have to pull another card because of how the reading goes. But yeah, jump on Tuesday, and then we'll see you Thursday as we talk about Venus. And then next Sunday, the heart chakra. So, all right. Thank you, everybody. So we will part now. Merry meet, merry part, bright blessings, and namaste.